and we are again thrilled to have on our set to kick off today's program to help us, I guess, drop the puck in advance of the Stanley Cup playoffs beginning Saturday, April 20th on 6 television partners, national television partners of the National Hockey League, and the keeper of the cup himself, Howie Barrow, is here on the program. Good to see you, sir. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Now, it's kind of funny that we do need to wait for our radio audience to return, and they're not able to actually see this beautiful chalice in person. Oh. But they're coming back shortly, so that's where I'll hold my powder, if you will, for some of the questions. What do you think of, though, when you see the cup?
It's just such a historical trophy that's revered by all hockey players.
But in your gut, what do you feel when you see this thing?
I'm very proud and privileged to be able to, travel with it and experience some of the things that I have experienced over the years. It's just a part of Canadian history, but it's also world history now too, because players have come from all over the world, different countries.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing piece of silverware that's it's not replicated anywhere.
Mike, and you don't have a replica of this, right? You've got a replica of the Lombardi Trophy.
No.
You've got a replica of the World Cup trophy.
Nope,
but not this one.
No, do not have a replica of the Stanley Cup. I wish I did. That's actually the cool.
Saying that, we do have a replica that stays at the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And that's for the fans to see it when they visit, because this is on the road about 330 days a year, or else they'd never see it. So.
Well, you're getting some ideas like National Treasure to go out there and steal it, right?
Replica one.
You're like the Nick Cage of that caper. Can't do it. Don't do it, because you have to cross, international lines. I don't want to get in trouble. No. So this is, what a blast. Back on the Rich Eisen Show radio network. And again, for those who are listening right now, you know what the Stanley Cup looks like. It is to my right, and it's actually in between my desk and the one who has brought it to us. The keeper of the Stanley Cup, Howie Barrow, is here on the Rich Eisen Show again in advance of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Dropping puck on TNT, TBS, True TV, ABC, ESPN, and ESPN2. Playoff games nationally televised there starting Saturday, April 20th. Howie, it is a pleasure to meet you. I've heard about the Cup keeper, and I'm thrilled to actually get to meet. How many Cup keepers have there been in the history of the Stanley Cup?
There's probably been maybe 10 to a dozen. Right now, currently, there is 4 or 5 of us that do the main travel of the Cup throughout the year.
Okay.
It's on the road 330 days a year on average. So, but Phil Pritchard, my boss, he's the official keeper of the Cup. He's been doing it for 35 years now. So everybody knows him. He's the one who presents it on the ice when the team wins. So
so you're part of a legion, a group of Cup keepers.
Yes.
Okay. Are there Cup keeper interns that eventually grow into being a keeper? Like, is there a stepping stone?
I think that's how it all starts. Yeah. Every once in a while, we have some extra helpers that will come in for a weekend or two, maybe a week at a time, and they'll do various events. But there are a core main of us, like the 5 of us that will do the main travel throughout the year.
So I guess, how did you get started?
I started as a volunteer back in 2004 with the Hockey Hall of Fame. I just wanted to talk hockey with other fans. And eventually I started working part-time in the museum, working on weekends, and then was asked to start traveling with other trophies. And then 2010, I was asked to start traveling with the Cup.
Okay. Wow. I love. Wow. I knew I'd start digging in here. So other trophies. So you travel with a Vezina first, or you travel with what? Conn Smythe? I mean, and then you work your way up?
Yeah. No particular trophy. We go to various events with artifact displays and different trophies, and any one time we could travel with one trophy or maybe all 20 of them at the same time. So I don't remember which one now I started off with first, which is kind of weird that I didn't remember. But
once we're with Lord Stanley, everything just kind of fades away. All other trophies. Wow, pretty cool. So the first day you traveled with the Cup was when?
The very first event I did, I was at a local hockey arena, and basically I had it on display for the fans.
Where was this, in Canada?
In Canada. But the very first team that I worked with in the summertime was the Chicago Blackhawks in 2010. And the very first player I traveled with was Jonathan Toews. So he's a good guy to start off with.
By the way, that's a pretty good one for you to start off with.
Absolutely.
And Chicago. I mean, of all teams too, that just to get it right and to celebrate having it must have been such a moment for everyone to savor. What was that like to be around that?
Amazing. For an original 6 team to have won, and they hadn't won in over 40 years, I think, at that point. I remember that was my very first parade, Stanley Cup Championship parade, and I was told there was over like almost 2.5 million people on Michigan Avenue, and it was just amazing. People were everywhere. I've never seen anything like it since either. It's just the biggest parade I've ever been a part of. So the city is hockey crazy, and rightfully so. They're rebuilding now, but they'll get there.
No, I know that. So okay, let's get into the a little bit more of the history and then some story time. I've got the keeper of the Stanley Cup with the Stanley Cup right here, Howie Barrow, here on the Rich Eisen Show. So this trophy was born 132 years ago?
Yes.
What's the history of that?
Well, it was first presented in 1893. Frederick Arthur Stanley, he was the Governor General of Canada at the time. He was selected by Queen Victoria in that role. And there was no championship trophy for the amateur champion within Canada at that time. So he presented a bowl. The official name of the bowl is the Dominion Hockey Challenge Cup. And it was just for amateur champions at the time. So up until 1917, when the NHL was finally formed, it was all for amateurs before it became a professional trophy. And the engravings, they started early on and, up to the point the way it is now. So that's a whole different story there, too, with the history.
Which is what? So the bowl was what was presented originally over and over again, or just a different bowl, or
no? It was the same bowl.
So which is currently resting atop this cup right now.
Well, the original bowl now is in the Hockey Hall of Fame on permanent display. They thought it was getting brittle because of the age, so they put this bowl on. It's a replica, but it's been on the trophy since 1958. So it's basically part of the. The original. And
then inside the top of the cup in the bowl is what? What's inside the bowl?
It was first presented 1893, but in 1907, the Montreal Wanderers decided to engrave their names, the roster names, inside the bowl for the very first time. So teams that had won previously, they decided they wanted their names on the cup too, and that's basically how the engravings and the tradition of that started. So as they started to run out of room, they had to start adding bands. And it changed shapes, over the years.
What do you mean change shapes?
Well, it started off as the bowl itself, and then the neck piece underneath that. And then at one point up until about 1948, it was a stovepipe shape. Very tall, probably taller than it is now.
Yeah.
And the bands were much thinner. And they grew it about as much as they could at that time without it being too big to present and stuff. So 1948... they changed the shape to the way it is now, but they still tried to use the same bands from the original trophy. After a while, it still didn't work out where they could keep presenting the cup over and over. So 1958, they changed it again to the bands that they have now, where each team has the exact same spacing. So now it'll never run out of room because it's going to be perpetual in a way that once the lower band is filled and the entire cup is filled again, they have to remove the top band from the barrel.
Right.
That's retired to the Hockey Hall of Fame. Everything's shifted up one, and a brand new one's put on the bottom.
And so the top band, as it currently is, I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's a half century of
65 years in total.
65 years in total. So the top band right now are the champions from which decade? Right now,
the oldest team on there now is the 65-66 Montreal Canadiens.
All right, and how many more? I could see some blank spaces on the bottom band. How many are left there?
There's room for 7 more teams.
Okay,
and then they'll make the switch again.
How many years between each switch?
13 years.
Oh, so all right, I'll say it. So the Stanley Cup has a bar mitzvah every 13 years.
Sure.
It's sort of like Lord Stanley's bar mitzvah.
Yes.
I mean, okay, and then. When the band goes into the Hockey Hall of Fame placed flat, right?
Yes, they cut it in half and it's flattened out and it's put on permanent display on a wall in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
So we're 7 years away from that.
Yes.
Okay. So get your bar mitzvah gifts ready over the next 7 years for Lord Stanley's Cup.
On it.
Howie Barrow, the cup keeper here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right. So now the the display said 330 days a year.
Approximately,
that
yes.
the cup is somewhere, right?
It's somewhere.
How many days of that year is in the possession of an actual the most recent cup winner? Is that? What's that process like?
Yes. So the championship team has about 100 days to travel with it. So that entails where each player will have a full day with it. Ownership, team general manager, president, equipment managers, trainers, all the players, they all get a full day with it. And then you also have corporate sponsors and partners and stuff that too for the teams. But so we'll travel all around the world following these guys to their hometowns and home countries, and they'll be able to share it with their family, friends, and community.
So who's in charge? The teams are in charge of who gets how the 100 days are parceled out. Are you and your organization involved in this?
Yes,
or what?
my boss, Phil Pritchard, will work with a representative from the winning team, and they'll sort out a schedule. Players will ask for certain days that they can have the cup, and they'll try to work it out that way.
But you're not involved in that. That's their problem, right? That's their problem. That's a TP. That's a they problem, not a YP, not a your problem.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
I just went boogie nights with the keeper of the cup right here. Okay, well, one of. All right, so what's the furthest you've ever traveled?
I was in a city called Novosibirsk, Russia, almost like Siberia country, but it's been to over 30 countries around the world.
Who'd you go there?
I was with Tarasenko from St. Louis Blues, and I've been to Russia now 5 times. We went to Australia not too long ago, but that was an NHL event.
Okay.
But the cup has been to Japan once. It's been to China, Afghanistan to support the troops. It's been all over the world.
Amazing.
Pretty amazing.
What are the rules now for mere mortals? Mere mortals cannot touch the cup? What are the rules here?
Everybody has their superstitions.
But we've heard that. Yes, right.
I heard you talking about that earlier.
But
some fans won't touch it because they think it's bad luck and they don't want to jinx their team.
Okay.
Players definitely that are still in the league trying to win it, they won't touch it.
They probably won't even look at it, right? They won't even.
Oh, they won't go near it. No. But everybody has their superstitions. Some are stronger than others, I guess.
What's the most superstitious thing you've ever heard of involving the cup?
Just guys that have even won it, they won't touch it. There was a general manager once, because he never won it as a player, even though he won it as the general manager, still wouldn't hoist it over his head or anything. Whoa. It was just one of those things where he felt he never won it as a player, so he just felt it, he didn't have the right to do that. It's supposed to be the players, but everybody has their own thoughts about that.
I see. Okay, so the rule is what? So there is no rule about who gets to hoist it and who gets to drink from it, or what are the rules? The
main rule is you're supposed to have your name on it. You're supposed to be one of the winners. So when your name's on it, you have those rights where you can drink from it, you can hoist it, and stuff like that. But fans can touch it. We don't mind them touching it. They can give it a hug or a kiss. We just don't want them to move it or try to lift it themselves.
Are fans allowed to drink from it?
Only if they're in the presence of a player that maybe has a Stanley Cup day and that player wants to share it with them. Then they can do it together.
I will share this with you. I was the late, beautiful human being, Matthew Perry, diehard Kings fan. Yep. I mean, absolutely loved the Los Angeles Kings. He had the cup for a day, and Kopitar was there.
Yes.
And Kopitar was the only one who was allowed to tip it and serve people drinking out of the top of the cup.
Yes.
And so he was following the proper protocol.
He was.
Okay. And I did drink from this cup. From it.
What did you drink from that cup?
I had a glass of red wine.
Okay.
And I poured it in there, and he poured it, Anze Kopitar tipped it, and I drank from this cup. That actually happened in my life, and it was fantastic. And I do not have a photograph of it.
Oh, that's a shame.
No, wow. I do not. But it was just an absolute delight. And Kopitar couldn't have been nicer. He was doing a lot. He was doing a lot of work because that is the rule, and he was following it. That's it.
Yes.
How many times have you had to step in though? Around this cup?
Once in a while. I mean, when we were with the players, we kind of give them the little rundown of the rules and stuff like that. And they're very respectful. They understand. And we try to let them know that, it's better to share it with your family, your friends, people that are more important to you. You shouldn't be going into a bar and sharing it with like 500 other people that you don't even know. But, they do it. You really can't stop them from doing everything. But we just want to make sure the cup isn't in any kind of danger of being damaged. If it gets damaged while we're on the road and we have to take it off the road, then some other players might miss their cup day, and we don't want that to happen.
Of course. Or fans, or days where it's supposed to be viewed by a group of fans, or as you mentioned, sponsors.
Yes.
What's the craziest liquid you've seen placed in?
There's been
cup?
Margaritas made out of it.
Do they salt the rim?
Well, they did once, but we learned that you can't do that because it actually turns the silver black.
Ooh.
So we don't do that anymore. It's just the alcohol that goes in.
So somebody did, in fact, salt the rim of the bowl of the Stanley Cup to serve a margarita.
Wow.
And you learn the hard way that it affects the color of the cup itself.
Yes.
I guess trial and error. Yeah. And drinking.
Has it ever gone missing?
It's missed, the odd connecting flight.
Okay.
What do you mean?
Sometimes
Hold on a minute.
timing.
You check this? This thing gets
We
checked?
have to check it. That's the only way we can fly with it. We'll get to the airport. We'll check in, and then it has to go through TSA like any other oversized baggage.
Right.
Once they check it.
So you've waited at an oversized baggage carousel waiting for the Stanley Cup to come out. Do you?
It's the only way to travel.
I get nervous when it's my own bag, but my toiletry can.
Golf clubs and the Stanley Cup.
And that's what I would ask you. I see the case has a bunch of fragile signs on it. I had a chair shipped from Philadelphia for WrestleMania, and I was just sweating this chair.
Of course.
I can't imagine what you must be feeling like waiting for that case to come out with this cup in it. You must be terrified.
Yeah. The very first time it happened to me, a player came to pick me up, and we were waiting for the cup, and it didn't show up. It wasn't put on the flight. And the poor guy had to go back to a parade in his hometown waiting for the cup, and it never showed. So he had to go through the parade, no cup. I felt bad for the guy, but in the end, the rest of his day was fine. I had to wait at the airport for like 3 hours for the next flight. But what can you do? We have no control over something like that. So you just do the best you can, and go on.
So has the cup ever almost missed its appointment to be presented to a winning team? Like, has it ever almost not made it to the ice?
There was a few years back in Chicago. It was late for the presentation. There was a big rainstorm or something that happened. Just the downpour of the rain flooded all the viaducts and everything. So the roads were kind of shut down, and trying to get from the hotel, I guess, to the presentation, even the police officers were having a tough time trying to get through the roads. So the cup was, maybe it was 10 or 15 minutes late, but it still arrived. But that's the only time. Now there's rules put in place that, if they're waiting out in the parking lot, they're going to be right there at the building to be able to present on time.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I have so many more questions. Here's one for you, Howie. Howie Borrow, the cup keeper here. You don't have to give me the details, all right? Don't give me the details. But I would love the name of the player who's held the wildest party you have been to for the Stanley Cup, where even you, who have seen a lot, were like, wow, this one's a rager.
Alexander Ovechkin.
No, let him answer.
You're leading the witness.
Don't leave the witness.
No. To be honest, people have their minds go wild thinking that there's all these crazy parties. But that's why I'm there now, and my coworkers. We're there to prevent that. Like, we want the players to have fun, but
sure, right.
You got to keep it within a certain.
But so, who's the one that? Give me the one that where it was kind of wild, or
I haven't been to every party.
Okay,
but,
for you,
I'm just trying to think of
for you. Well, you did have a reaction when he said the word Ovechkin. I mean,
I was at a player's. His uncle had a farm out in Western Canada. Mm-hmm. And so earlier in the day, it was a family-oriented party. Kids and everything were there, so that was like a nice family reunion, barbecue type thing. Mm-hmm. And then later at night, he had this whole elaborate system put up with tents and a dance floor, and he had the strobe lights and the karaoke machines and everything else. And that was pretty crazy. I mean, because they could get as loud as they want. No one was going to hear them and stuff. And,
no one was going to complain about somebody screeching out careless whispers or something like that. Hammered at 3 a.m. with the cup. Who was the player who did that? Do you remember that?
Oh, I'm just trying to think now. Yeah, it's.
You're looking at the cup to see if you can see an engraved name.
We have so many events throughout the years. Sometimes it is a blur to try to remember everybody.
I can't imagine.
Okay.
I'll think about it, and I will get back to you on that. But,
The cup doesn't have its own first-class seat.
Hold on a minute. Let's take a break. Let's take a break, and we've got a few more questions before we get you on your day here.
Okay.
And this is just a fun hour hanging with the cup. Cool. Howie Barrow, the keeper of the cup, or one of them, is here on the Rich Eisen Show. Where are you from originally? You're from
I'm from Toronto.
You're from Toronto?
Yes.
Okay. So the Leafs were your team or growing up?
The Leafs are my team, but my sentimental favorite team is the Boston Bruins.
Right there.
My father was born in the same hometown as Bobby Orr.
Yeah, he was.
And I went to school there for a little bit as a kid, so he's always been my sentimental hero.
Okay.
Bruins, so yeah.
Which actor did we have here who is he a Leafs fan or a Canadian fan? Was it Jay Baruchel? Yes.
Oh,
he's a Canadian fan who bought one of the bricks that they put in front of the arena there in Toronto.
And to talk smack about the Leafs.
Yeah, to troll the Leafs.
Yeah.
That we heard, that was a good story.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, because they have like these commemorative bricks that you can buy and place in the ground and put some. Normally, it's just hey, my grandpa, my grandma was a diehard Leafs fan, so her name's now commemorated here. And
it was like screw Toronto.
Yeah, basically, just talking about how how they've been having trouble.
That's funny.
Bringing this there. So who was your player growing up then when you were a kid? Who was your favorite player?
Well, I followed the Toronto Maple Leafs a lot growing up. So my favorite player was Lanny McDonald. He's now our chairman at the Hockey Hall of Fame.
How cool is that? So you gotten to meet him and
yes. Yeah, it's pretty cool. When
he doesn't have that big bushy mustache anymore.
He still does. That's his trademark. Yes.
Oh my gosh! I might have had a hockey card of his, like missing teeth and stuff like that. I remember all that, man. Wow! Oh, so much fun right here. We got about a few minutes left with the keeper of the cup, Howie Barrow. The keeper of the cup is here on the Rich Eisen Show. We're here, radio and TV all together. And prior to the commercial break, I asked you, Howie, about who held the most unique party. I called it a rager. You're too kind to call it that, but you said you had like a kid set up, like a carnival set up during the day. Then they put the kids to bed, and out came a tent and karaoke and all sorts of fun stuff. And you said that you spent the commercial break searching for his name on the cup, and you found it.
I did. Yes.
Who is it?
Chris Versteeg with the Chicago Blackhawks.
The Blackhawks had fun with this thing.
Yeah. Got after it.
I guess if you win it once in 40 years, you're gonna go have fun with it.
And I don't know. I mean, somebody mentioned Alexander Ovechkin earlier. Yeah. I do have a story with him. Like he's talking about food put in the bowl. You see everything: chicken wings, pierogies, ice cream, cereal. But he put in $15,000 worth of caviar in the bowl. So that's his crazy thing.
Wow.
What does? So $15,000 of caviar is fills
up in there. Yes.
Okay. Was it above the rim, or did they
put in a bit of
even
ice
it out
on the bottom? But then when they did put it in, it kind of came above the rim for sure. And there's some great photos of it. And everybody dug in, had their little spoons, and dug in. So it was pretty cool.
Awesome. Now, where in the world would Ovechkin get caviar that amount? How in the world would he be able to acquire such a thing? Wow. So I guess you're wondering, it's how expensive would it be to fill up the Stanley Cup bowl with caviar? We now have our answer.
There you go.
That's like $15,000.
Like a pound and a half of caviar, by the way.
Wow. So you've seen all different types of food stuff in there. Soup?
Yes.
Have we seen soup in there?
Soup.
What cereal have you seen in there? Come on now. What
Fruit
cereal?
Loops, Captain Crunch, you name it, it's been in there. Cinnamon
Toast Crunch.
or something. Yeah,
Toast Crunch.
Yeah.
It's the best milk.
We've seen I've seen the youngest baby in the bowl too. That's a record that we kind of keep track of.
What's the youngest baby you've seen?
20 minutes old.
20 minutes.
Yes. Unbelievable as it is. 20 minutes.
Whose was this?
Whose baby was this?
It was a couple that had a baby in St. Louis back in 2019.
Okay.
And there was actually a couple that was supposed to try for the record ahead of time. But she had a cesarean, and while she was being prepped after the baby was born, some other woman had the baby naturally, and she was ready to go right away. So she kind of jumped in and took over the record right then and there.
No way.
Yeah. The previous record to that was there was 6 hours, and then it got down to 97 minutes, and then 20 minutes now is the standing record.
So what is this record? People are going. What do you mean they're going for it? So is the cup in a hospital?
We did.
This groups of pregnant women going to give birth, and it's like it's a race to the finish.
It was a planned event to go there. Yeah, and that's how it happened.
So it's just. Hold on a second.
It's like who has the New Year's
I'm
baby
just
first?
again. My brain is just firing off on all cylinders right now. So there's a bunch of pregnant women in St. Louis.
Okay.
By the way, right?
Two.
Is that what it is? Oh, okay, there's 2 pregnant women in St. Louis, and they both know what the goal is to have a healthy child, A, and B, have it fast enough to set the record for the youngest human ever placed in the bowl of the Stanley Cup. Is that what you're saying?
Well, originally,
do the doctors know they're on the hook too here?
I think there was a little bit of that going on, but originally it was just one woman.
Okay.
And the idea was once she had the baby, then they would put the baby in the bowl.
Yes.
So it would have broke the record no matter what time it was, as long as it within an hour and a half.
Yes.
Well, when the second woman all of a sudden had a baby and she was ready to go right away, that changed the whole storyline right there. So we got the baby in the bowl. They prepped the baby, got her all cleaned up.
idea.
Swaddled the child and placed it in the cup. How did the second mom know the cup was available for this sort of thing?
It was planned, I think, with them. That's the way the story, from what I hear, was supposed to happen. So they knew it was happening. They still ended up having their baby put in the bowl afterwards. But
runner-up, though.
Yeah.
And that baby's name was Wayne Gretzky. Turned out to be the greatest player ever. Get out of here. No, I'm just kidding. But that's a wild story.
It is.
What is I can see there's an X'd out name on the trophy.
Yes.
What's that story?
1983-84 Edmonton Oilers. Peter Pocklington, who was the owner at the time.
Yes, sir.
He wanted to honor his father, put his father's name on the cup, but he had no affiliation with the team in any way. So when the NHL found that out, they made him exit out because he didn't deserve to be there. So now he's probably more famous for the X-out than he is just to have the name.
So why not just re-engrave? I guess you're not going to re-engrave the entire band, right?
Probably not. I'm not sure how many teams are already on there, but that's a lot of work, to go back and redo everything.
So it's much easier to just X out his dad's name.
Wow.
Yeah. How does this investigative process work? I mean, like he just tried to sneak it past the goalie, to use the phrase, try to go on the cup keeper's 5 hole. Is that what you're saying with his dad's name?
He tried to sneak it past the NHL, but there are rules, and you have to earn it to be on there, and that's only fair to the guys that have earned it in the past. So if your name's on there and you're not supposed to be, then that's the only way they can take it off.
Is that the only name that's X'd out on the cup?
There is another name that just got X'd out recently. Involved a team from 2010, Chicago Blackhawks. Mm-hmm. So we don't usually talk about that.
Okay, understand.
Too much, but,
as much as the same one that says
there was some inappropriate behavior going on.
Understood.
And,
I got it. So there's 7 more spaces here.
Yes.
And somebody in just a couple of months. How fast does the engraving take place?
It takes about a week. Last year they did it fairly quickly before the summer tour started, but typically it's not done until the end of the summer. Mm-hmm. That way the players can start getting their day with the cup a lot quicker. But I think it's fun that they have it on when they have their day. That way they can see their name, they can share it with their family and friends, and it's already on there. So it all depends on the timing and how the team wants to do it. I guess it's up to them if they want to be able to, start their tour right away or just kind of wait and finish it before the season starts again.
Well, I'm going to miss having Lord Stanley's Cup here. This has been an honor. It's been awesome.
So cool.
I thank you. I thank the NHL. I thank for everybody for offering us up. And as soon as I heard it, I'm like, are you kidding? Absolutely. So where does the Cup go from here?
I'm headed to Atlanta tonight.
Okay.
I'm going to do some stuff there with Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaq's got the Cup next?
Yes. We're doing some kind of a segment or something.
I mean, it's with Turner. I'm sure it's
Yes.
in promotion of Turner's Cup playoff coverage.
Yeah. I mean, the NHL is doing a great job getting it around to, different guys, radio, TV stations, influencers, anything that will help draw some attention to the playoffs that are coming up soon, April 20th. And just, keep it in everybody's mind. Like, I mean, the Stanley Cup is probably the greatest professional team sports trophy around ever. So they just want to keep it out there and let everybody see it.
Internal friendly wager here on the Rich Eisen Show. Does the cup make it to Shaq's knee? Yes or no? Hold on a minute. We do have, how tall is the cup? The cup is how tall?
36 inches tall.
Yeah, that's a pretty long. Yeah.
It does make it to
I don't know if it makes
Shaq's thigh.
I don't know if it makes it to Wemby's knee.
Wembanyama's knee. Well, he's not going to see Wemby. He's going to see Shaq.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it goes past Shaq's knee.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Awesome. Thank you for being here, man. This is a
thanks for
total
having
blast.
us.
And then I just love it goes in the case.
Back in the case.
Okay. And which has its own lining, right? It
does. Yes.
In that case, the lining changes colors, I heard.
It has over the years. It's form fitted, so it protects the cup. But every 4 or 5 years, maybe, depending on how bad the cup case is, because all the handling with the airports and that, when we change it, we do change the color, probably to match maybe the current Stanley Cup champions. So
well, it's blue right now. Does that mean it's good for the Rangers, the Leafs?
Interesting.
And their fans would probably think that, right?
Yes, absolutely they do.
Hey, listen, fans pay attention to what the color scheme is of the Super Bowl logo and think it's the NFL fixing it for whoever's got their matching color schemes with their team. Pretty crazy. But this has been a blast meeting you, Howie. Thanks for the time. Thanks for the stories. Thanks for hanging with the cup. Thanks for letting us hang with it right here.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's been a great experience. Thank
April
you.
20th, it begins. The Stanley Cup playoffs on Saturday, April 20th. TNT, TBS, True TV, ABC, ESPN, and ESPN2. You can watch it right here on the Roku portal. We're still here on the Roku channel for another minute plus. I don't even know. Is there anything I haven't asked? Is there a story I need to know? What do I need to know?
Oh, there's women's names on the cup. I think there's almost 20 now. It's
okay, great.
Mostly ownership, but there's a few executive assistants that are on there too.
Okay.
Our engraver is a woman. She's been doing it over 30 years now. She's only one of 4 engravers in the history of the cup, which is pretty unique in itself.
It's not from the same family, though, right?
I think her father or grandfather did it previous to that, so it is something that carries on.
Come on.
Wow. Yeah.
That is.
There's traditions all over this chalice right now. Fantastic.
Every team that's ever won it
since
1893 is still on the cup somewhere.
Is that right?
It is.
Because of the top rings that don't change?
Yes, these top bands here, like back then, they would only put like the year and the team name and stuff just to signify that. But as you get into the more modern era, you start seeing all the players' names and coaches and everything else. But
so then when you take a band off, do you have to re-engrave to make sure that, or just the same franchise, it doesn't matter, it's just franchise names?
Well, the top half of the cup doesn't change. It stays permanent to show a part of the original history. It's only the 5 bands on the big barrel that do change every 13 years.
Right. So, but if a band moves and then that team's not represented in the cup, that doesn't change, you would have to change that part, right?
Right now, every team will be on there. It goes from 1893 to 1992. Once they hit the 1992 again, on the larger bands, then they're going to have to maybe change something up to create that same tradition.
We'll have to have another bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
What a blast with the cup on the show. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.